Hi, welcome back. If this is your first time watching something from my channel, then welcome. I usually do book reviews. I think I'm interested in trying out like a new format. Not so much a new format as new tradition within this format. I've been having this itching feeling lately that like consumerism benefits from me being super vapid. I really want to fight that by doing the work that I can in my life to see the connective like threads between like everything that I'm learning so that I can come to a critical understanding of information. I'm in my last semester of undergrad right now. There aren't really like any organic opportunities for me to do any extracurricular research right now, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about some of what I am reading for class. I'm an English major. Yeah, and to talk about striking themes and how it's forcing me to think beyond my own means. This is what I'm working on right now. We're only 3 weeks into the semester. I'll start with what's on top. This is James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. I'm only a couple chapters in, so I can't really make any definitive claims about this. I mean, I know that like I know I'm gonna love it. I'm loving reading it. James Baldwin, his writing, I don't think it would be accurate to call it stylistic. But then again, the lines between style and content are pretty blurred. I love what he does with the sentence. In just one or two lines, he'll utterly gut you. I'm gonna read just the first couple of lines from this book. I stand at the window of this great house in the south of France as night falls, the night which is leading me to the most terrible morning of my life. I have a drink in my hand. There is a bottle at my elbow. I watch my reflection in the darkening gleam of the window pane. My reflection is tall, perhaps rather like an arrow. My blonde hair gleams. My face is like a face you've seen many times. My ancestors conquered a continent, pushing across death-laden plains until they came to an ocean which faced away from Europe into a darker past. I always find myself actually rather speechless when I come across writing like Baldwin's that is so tuned into the appetitive nature of reading. He makes you wait just the right amount of time between these like banger lines. For those of you who don't know much about James Baldwin, he was an intellectual and a civil rights activist in the late 60s. The span of his writing career, I'm not really sure. This was written 1956. The protagonist of this book, and who's also the narrator, is a white man. He is a gay white man. Baldwin was also gay, and he felt that it would be too much to approach like the subjectivity of a person who was both black and gay, and at that intersection of existence, so he chose to focus on queerness for this novel. It's an amazingly written book. I can't wait to finish it. It's just like dripping with like literary prowess, and I don't know. I'm a writer, and I know that I'll never be one of the greats, and that's because I can't write like this. There's just such a readiness of ideas here that I don't have, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay that like I'm okay with being a mediocre writer, because the field is already shaped by amazing books like this. Yeah. Okay, moving on. This is Piers Plowman by William Langland. This is a medieval text. On the left side, the text is written in Middle English, and on the right side, it's like modern English. I think the voice of a lot of medieval authors just like doesn't resonate with me. The conditions of my life are much different than what medieval authors were experiencing. I'm just like searching for the words to describe what it is that makes me feel really alienated when I read medieval literature. I think it has something to do with like the hierarchy of subject matter. They tend to like dwell on God a lot. I love spiritual works, but I love for them to be interpreted through the space of the self. You know, everything that I like about James Baldwin's work, I would say, is not really present here. I think that Baldwin probes questions that transcend the self while also talking about the individual. This book, it's told from an individual's perspective. Is transtemporal a word? I was gonna say like the transtemporal space is just challenging. The protagonist of this book is seeking natural knowledge of God and of the good works. My professor had us read an essay by Judith Butler, and then another essay, I can't remember, Pasquini, about IVF. We've been connecting the protagonist's search for natural knowledge to the concept of natural law as like an abstract, like ideal that is very relevant to policy today when it comes to gender, when it comes to reproductive rights. This idea that like gender is determined by what's like happening at like the cellular level with an embryo, and the idea that like life starts at like at conception, like these are extensions of a very old question about what natural law is, and how we are defined by it, and how it should be codified into our social reality. This is one I'm very excited to talk about. Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. George Eliot is a pen name for, I can't remember the woman's name, but anyway, George Eliot is a woman. It's funny to me that she's writing under a pen name that's supposed to project like that she's a man in order to sell more books, but the way that she writes, I feel that she writes like a woman. I'm not gonna over explain myself by saying that, like it's just a feeling. I'm not trying to be essentialist by saying that women write this way and men write this way. You know, I was gonna go on this whole rant about how women authors, how I strongly prefer their work over male authors, but you know, I just talked about James Baldwin and how I could feel and smell and taste his writing, and that's how I feel about this book. It's like such a pulse behind it. It's about this character Maggie and her brother Tom, and their father owns a mill on this river called the Floss. It follows them in their childhood being immersed in this like waterside environment, and then it tracks the ways that they are like maturing through heartache and through their parents' financial crises. The protagonist Maggie, she is someone who is so deeply affected by the feelings of those around her and by her own emotional weather. She wants people around her to affirm how clever she is. At least as a child, that seems to be her deepest longing. There are whole passages in this that are so trippy and that really remind me of the work of Simone Weil. Passages that just captured to me just like the incredible like just erasure of identity when you like see the face of God. You'll have to read it to really understand what I mean. I had to skip a couple of chapters in order to be caught up with the rest of the class. I definitely plan on indulging a reread with this. Last but not least, we have the selected writings of Edgar Allan Poe. This is a book that I am reading for my senior seminar. I probably won't read the whole thing, but I imagine we'll get through a good bit of it. I am becoming familiar with Poe, perhaps more extensively than I've ever wanted to. I find that in this class, a lot of what we're doing is talking about Poe as a personality. I find that he's kind of a cheeky bastard. He writes a lot of satire that's to be picked up from the sort of like subtlety of his stylistic choices. I just read a recent article about his prosody, which is just like the metrics of his lyric poetry. I thought it made some interesting points, like sort of unrelated to Poe at all, but how like a poem can never be experienced the same way twice, like not even by the same person, not even by people who are listening to a recording of a poem that was recited. I think much will be gained from this class. I'm kind of developing a dislike for Poe. I don't know if that's fair. He was like an extremely prolific writer. A lot of his work for me just escapes being really compelling. He'll get like 85% of the way there and just kind of leave it there. I would love to eventually do like a video essay format. However, I'm extremely burnt out from school and maybe I don't even have the intellectual capacity or just like downright patience to do all the editing that would entail. That's a little bit of what I've been learning. I hope to be back here pretty soon to update y'all as we move on to other books. And yeah, I hope everyone's having a good beginning to their new year, and I'll see you soon.